You are live on Channel 8 and YouTube.
Very good. Welcome everyone to the March 18th meeting of the Advisory Committee. If we could like to start by calling the meeting to order and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, first up on the agenda, we got approval of meeting minutes. We're still working on those, so we don't have any ones to approve from our last meeting. We'll get those in tonight's, hopefully for the next meeting, and get those taken care of.
No problem.
So give a minute here. I see Amy coming on. Next up that we're going to have is committee updates. I haven't had anything since our last meeting on the Capital Committee. We haven't met. I believe Tony had said there's the accountant as the search was pretty much kind of put off at this point. Amy, if you can hear us, if you're with us, did you have anything since your last meeting on the school, the regional the school? I think she's just coming in. If nobody minds, we'll go past Amy's question on that and come back to her if she does have a committee update once she gets things squared away and on. Next up, we got new business. Not sure how you guys want to attack this. We've got obviously to discuss the FY22 budget and the workshop that was on the 13th. Not sure if somebody wants to start off with how they'd like to proceed through it. I know there was a number of things that went out and a lot of good interaction during the workshop that I saw. A lot of good questions. Thought it was very informative. I thought many of you had some, brought up some great points along the way. Not sure how we actually want to go about doing it. If we want to go talk about some of the bullet points that they had put out on that were looking for holds or notes and that, or any opinions out of you guys, Bob? Well,
I was just going to say from my perspective on this, my thought on this when I put down, I think I wrote something about the FY22 budget review or something.
Yes.
I just wanted to know how the overall committee felt with the process, with the time allowed, the methodology used, and the results. Because I think this is the second year we've done the Saturday. And a couple of us are new and to this, and I just wanted to see the general feeling of the committee as to how they thought the process served them, and if they thought they got the information needed to feel comfortable with the budget.
I'll weigh in on that, Bob.
Sure.
I felt that and I said this right at the beginning of the meeting, is that the allotted time I felt was not sufficient for us to end up getting all the questions, and that's obvious that we ran on another almost 3 hours past what was scheduled, and I'm sure that there was other questions that were not answered, and having a meeting that long is a little difficult for everybody, because I know some people have to take and then drop off for whatever reason. It might be better to take and end up doing it over a period of 2 weekends and breaking it up and spending a little more time in, on the budgets and get all those questions done. But if you break it up and you finish early, that's good. But I mean, we still need, to me, break it up, get a little more time to get the questions. And it brought out a lot of issues that are still hanging on as far as the budget that need to be resolved before we go forth.
Go ahead, Bev. I see you got your hand up.
I really thought it was great because it was a lot of interaction. It was way too long. I can't do that. Personally for myself, my fibromyalgia screamed at me. I managed to get through it and I made it through Monday night, but it was too long. I agree with Will. If we split it up and did two evenings or 2 days, it would have been a lot better. But I thought on a whole, but there's still some unresolved stuff, but we're getting there. And I think that it was a good thing. And I think it's a teaching tool for the younger people. Someday they're going to have to step in our shoes. They need to have a general idea of how it's done. See, I grew up, when I became on the advisory board, I was on with Judy Wilson and a lot of older people. And by watching meetings, that's how people learn what's expected and what you could do better. So I think in all, it was a success for what it was, but it's got improvements.
Yeah, I have to agree with Bev. For what little time that we had, there was a lot of stuff that was brought out. In fact, it really opened up some people's eyes as to the fact that the excise tax, there was so many that were unpaid, and that's unprecedented at this particular time. And I mean, we got some good answers from some of the department heads as to what they were doing, but there need to be more questions. And I think, I mean, I look back at what we used to do as advisory, and we would spend 2 weeks. We would end up doing maybe 2 or 3 departments on an evening, so it was spread out over a longer period. That's why I said there was a lot to take and try to get into one day, and we need to look at breaking that up.
I agree on that too. It was definitely a long day. I think the department heads had some great answers for a lot of the questions. I think some of it opened their eyes to, why do I do that? Actually, we've done it just because we've done it for a long time doesn't mean we always have to continue doing it in their budgets. And I think they had some good explanations on some questions that a lot of people had. But I definitely concur with it was just too long to have a meeting that long as far as one day goes. I don't know if I'd 100% want to do a 4 or 5 nights, just out of the fact that there are, people do have a lot of other things going on also. But maybe like Bev said, splitting it up over 2 might be, you have, 2 that are a little bit longer, but not necessarily a marathon meeting, as that one was. But I think going through and getting the questions answered, a lot of the questions answered at least, I think that was very helpful, at least to my mind it was.
I was going to say, it seems like we're all pretty much on the same page. I thought the meeting was run well. I don't think, anybody could really complain about not, being allowed to ask a question, not being given an answer. I agree that the department heads responded to the questions well. There were a lot of questions asked and a lot of good discussion. The one thing I absolutely hated was, basically cross-examining a committee member during a budget meeting. That's the one thing I think that came out that, for me, that would help in the future is if the practice prior to getting to the budget meeting was better. But, you know, as far as the length of time, yeah, I think it was too long, one sitting, on Saturday. I would much rather it in 2 or 3, sessions, which I think, as long as the budget was presented in a similar fashion, would be sufficient time, you know, to go through it, because, you know, nobody was really shy on asking questions during this budget meeting. Mike ran the meeting really well. You know, kept everybody informed, from, you know, the department heads, because I mean, I know that was my concern right off the bat, was that, you know, we were going to have department heads sitting around all day and then we weren't going to get to them. You know, I just remembered my first meetings of a budget, and I think we went 9 days with snow days, 9 nights. And that was really good, really instructional, but really long. But I think we're on the right track. I think with a few adjustments, we'd really have a pretty decent budget review process. You know, it's nice to see both advisory and the select board on the same page on a lot of items. Overall, like I said, with the budget, I'm pleased with the process. Not with the budget, but with the process.
I'll concur with Bob on the fact that a meeting, when you have that many people, I think that Mike provided a lot of information and kept things pretty well going, and tried to end up getting everybody to get in their questions, or you know, and move the process along. Though you could see that there was a lot more questions that needed or wanted to be asked that didn't get asked, and the allotted time wasn't there.
All right, does anyone have anything else on the workshop or how that went? Or, I know there's quite a list that came out as far as notes, but I think overall the budget was put together well by Adam and had quite a few, you know, he got some notes on things to look at, which I believe he is. And I think that's, I think he took a lot of that information to heart and was willing to work with it from both comments that came from our committee and the Board of Selectmen. So.
Yeah, that brought up a lot of things that needed to be be looked into, and possibly adjustments on the budget in the future as to what was being asked, and to take it end up maybe having some information prior to that they can end up helping with that whole process.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, we have a couple of comments on YouTube.
Sure, go ahead, Mr. Castle.
Okay. Mike Curry, Select Board Chair, said, "I really appreciate Will's attendance. He has not been in attendance in years past, and I appreciate all that he brought." And then said, in response to Mr. May's comment, I believe, about the duration of meetings, "Tough to do, Bob, if we are trying to get it done in public meetings. I agree, but we wanted to get to the heart of things. I thought of Will's criticism of town meeting and acted accordingly." And those are the highlights so far.
All right. Does anyone have anything else they wanted to bring up on that before we go on to the next thing?
I'm good.
All right. Next up, Bob, if you want to, we kind of segued into your couple of your other items here. Discuss employee raises during one-time fund usage.
Yes. I wanted to discuss this because, well, for a multitude of reasons. But I just don't think, myself personally, this has nothing to do with whether or not good employees, bad employees, different employees, super employees, anything like that. This is not about work performance. I'm saying that during a pandemic, when we're using one-time funds to balance the budget, and let's not make any mistake about that, the ESSER 2 funds are one-time funds, Adam. That we should be giving out anything better than a inflationary adjusted raise, or basically a COLA type raise, cost of living. A 13% raise, 7.5% raises. Those are fine in good times. This is not one of those. You know, and we're going into this using one-time funds, talking about the out years as being the problem. I just can't. I don't know why, but I just can't wrap my head around the reasoning here and how that's unreasonable. So that's my start on that. I'll leave it there if anybody has any other thoughts.
Yeah,
If
Bob, I had
not-
the same feeling is that when you heard Adam talk, he was saying that there was a compensation, and it was for also for training. Well, that should have been a training line, as I pointed out, and not necessarily salaries, especially if the individual had gotten salaries. And I mean, overall, if you look at this, you don't want to create an issue by ending up identifying one person and really giving absorbent amount of money when you have a lot of individuals that are out there working on other departments that probably didn't do as well for whatever reason. And I you know, I don't know what the reviews were, but I mean, I'm sure that we have some other employees that probably deserve and if they only got a 5%, maybe they should have got a 6 or 7. But this is during pandemic, just double digits were in all my years of working in private sector were not the norm. It was basically unheard of to take and end up having that. The only way you ended up seeing something like that is if the individual changed as far as job descriptions and went from one pay grade to another because of the type of job that they were doing.
Bev, you got your hand up?
Yeah. I'm worried. And I'm worried because I look back and I've seen what has happened to our town when we got cut by the state, when they didn't pay us what we expected and what it cost us to get out of the hole that we were in. And I think it's going to be much worse than Mike or Adam or anybody else thinks. Maybe Jeffrey, me, and Will have got an idea because we've been around so long. And I think that if we're not prepared, the state told us to level fund. What part of that did we not understand? I don't think that we are going to be treated well by the state or the federal government. If we make out fine, we will be fine. But if we don't, we are going to be in a world of hurt. You know, 2002, 2003, hold on 1 minute. We had, this is from our town report. The municipal operating budget drastic cut in state and aid for fiscal year 2004 left the town's municipal operating budget significantly underfunded by 28%. that resulted in layoffs, the highway, the police department, as well as reduced hours for employees in other departments. We had our 385 streetlights were shut off back then. Remember that? Maybe not, you're a kid. You're younger. Anyway, in addition, let's see, they took those down. And a special town meeting was held August 4th, 2003, requesting an override of $951,367 to fund a portion of the municipal operating budget. It was defeated. It cost us a lot of money to get out of that hole. And we got a lot of money from other departments. This horror show went on through 2003, 2004. Took us a long time to recover. I don't think people understand. I really don't. And I hope I'm wrong, because if I'm wrong, we'll be fine. But if I'm not, we're going to have some problems.
Yeah, I remember the advisory committee chairman in 2003 had warned the selectmen that the methods that they were using were not a positive one to take and end up sustaining the budget. And as I said on Saturday, when you end up doing stipends, you have to be very, very careful, because if you single somebody out, there are other departments and other commissioners that are also doing a good job, such as health and assessors, that, and even the school committee members. All those stipends were done away with. So this is very shaky ground when you end up pointing out somebody and put down as far as stipends. It just does not feel right when you have other organizations. You might be creating more problems than what it's worth.
Yeah, I agree with everything that has been said in a lot of ways. I hope nobody's misunderstanding. I mean, I can kind of understand where, let's say you got Adam going in, a new position and a new environment somewhat. And then we have a totally new world economy. So, and he's also dealing with some of those raises were contractual, but it's the ones that weren't, that still, it's just the concept behind the one-time money. And if it's not contractual and you didn't have to do it, I can see, the pull from the employees. But, in this time, if we keep them from sinking, it's a whole lot better than laying them off next year. Just my 2 cents.
One thing I think, though, too, possibly, and I got to thinking about it, it's a stipend amount go on in the office there, but I think a lot of it's additional job duties that are put on that individual too.
The stipend sorry, Tom. The stipend has been changed. Now it's just a raise. It's not a stipend anymore.
Right.
Okay. I just wanted to correct that so we didn't,
Right. Okay. But the amount as far as the raises wise goes, I think that, last year when you look at it, you had a town administrator in there, you had another assistant in there, you had an extra person basically in that office, in my understanding wise. Now you've got Adam, who kind of is doing the town administrator's job, but there's other job duties that he was also doing that I think have been distributed a little bit throughout that office. At least in my opinion, from what I've seen from some of the things. So I think some of that has to do with the additional, raise wise also. I know it's difficult in pandemic times. Thankfully, looking from what potentially Templeton's going to be getting in FY21 and FY22, we should be receiving around 2.4 million from this recent aid package, and that as far as a town goes, to be used on some of the lost revenues, some of the tie over items, some of the different actually for infrastructure, and that they're still waiting for the amount for the actual rules on what you can and can't use the items for to come out. But they do seem like they're going to be a lot broader on what can be used compared to the previous CARES Act money that was out. So I think that although we're obviously planning for lean years coming up, I also think that potentially we're going to have the opportunity to actually do some potential infrastructure and different items here in town also. So I think it may balance itself out more than we expect it to. And I think we're going to see some positive going forward too. It's not all going to be, negative, I don't believe.
I really hope it's going to be positive, Tom. And I agree that, that's the goal and that's where we should be going. And I'm really hoping we get there. The only thing that I'm going to point out that you said, and it's not because you said it, it's not how you said it, just the words, was that that we're going to in the future. As far as the budget goes, that's one of the things that irks me to no end in Templeton here, because ever since I've been on the advisory board, I've been told we're going to do something, let's say regarding the school. We're going to do something regarding this. We're going to do something. And that it's always seemed to be pushed till next year, no matter what it is, it's just next year. And I wonder, in times like this, when, we got the school using all their E&D for this year. The school only has 439,000 left in their E&D account from everything that I can tell by their books. It may be more, maybe less. And next year, I just don't see how we're making up that $800,000 gap without just additional one-time monies, and then whatever increase they have on top of that. It just seems like we've joined the crew in giving up and paying for the things we do, and we're putting the school on a credit card now. Or we're putting our budget on a credit card. Why not? The country's done it. I just looked at that today, by the way, as the advisory committee. You might want to know that our debt to GDP is at 135%, which is the highest it's ever been. In 2000, it was 58. In 1980, it was 34. And it was even lower during World War II. And that's gone up from 107% to 135% since last March. And there's your stimulus money. And that's what we're counting on. Just today I was having a discussion, and pretty much what I was told is that we're counting on, this ESSER 3 money to, basically float us for the next 2 years. I see an end, and it's not looking good to me. I hope you guys can brighten the picture for me.
Well, one of the things, Bob, is that the federal government can print their own money. If they allow the towns to do that, that might get us out. But that's not something that's going to happen anytime soon.
We can work on that,
I
Will.
can do that.
And that would really be good, is that they can end up printing some more money so that we can end up continuing on and paying for all of this, and or have the banks print their own money like they used to, but those days are gone.
Yeah.
All right. Does
I
anyone
want
have?
to say something. I
Go
just want to
ahead.
say one more thing. I feel like sustainability is really like a key problem for the finances in town. I have lived in town my entire life, Bev, so I do remember when they turned the lights off in 03 and 04, because our neighborhood had street lights, and they all got shut off. We have to pay to have them on if we want them now. There was one right outside my bedroom window, so I remember it well. I would like to see the town have more sustainable practices. I understand one-time funds are like this juicy treat that you get, and you want good things to happen with it because everyone's been working with their belts so tight. Unfortunately, I think the reality is that we have to continue to keep our belts super tight. I mean, those Worcester County retirement funds are coming down the pipe. I keep picturing 23, 24, 25, and the spike in that graph we saw 2 years ago. Like, these things are coming despite a pandemic, despite the fact that we only have one centralized school for our K-4 kids now, or pre-K to 4 kids now, despite the fact that we're going to need new fire equipment, another police officer, more whatever, our roads are falling apart. Like, all of these things are still going to happen. Templeton doesn't seem to have the infrastructure to create more income. Why is that not a topic for the select board? Why is that not a topic of local politics? And instead, we're complaining about, you know, why does the school need X amount of dollars? Well, there's a bigger problem here, and it's that everyone's purse is empty. And if we don't figure out a way to fill the town's purse, this is just going to turn into a dumpster fire even more. And I think sustainability has to be the watchword for the town administrator, for the select board, for us, for every office in town. Everyone should be focused on sustainability. Everybody wants raises. I get it. Everyone's pocketbooks are empty. Like Bob just said, there's nothing. And we can't count on anything coming from the state or the federal government because they change their minds all the time. You know, people get reelected and we're going to get a new bill of goods. We're going to have another election in May. People are going to leave the select board. That's how it works. Sustainability has to be our key.
I have to agree
Thank
with
you.
you, Amy. This is quite the issue. Unfortunately, we have a committee, the EDIC, which hasn't met for quite a while, and it's you end up looking at the opportunities to bring in business, and it's not looking very good. I mean, take a look. We just lost a business because somebody retired. I'm not aware of somebody taking over that business, and in future years here, as another business, and I see that in East Templeton, is Camelot. I mean, he's not getting any younger either. So I'm hoping that somebody takes it over and runs it, because if he ends up retiring and nobody takes over the business, that's another business. And businesses need to end up staying in or coming into the community. It's difficult to bring them in. Number one, as we saw with our mall that just collapsed per se, because we couldn't do, we couldn't end up providing the necessary things that they needed. And I mean, this goes on and on, that our only other choice, and you're going to laugh at this, is that they can end up trying to get a whole bunch of rich people in here, have them build big mansions like they do down in Newport, so we can tax them, that they can end up trying to get more money in. I mean, business, or end up having houses that are just so big that they're multi-million-dollar homes. Maybe we should see if we can get Tom Brady to come back and have a $30 million house.
55 and older, no kids.
That's on our horizon, Bob.
Go ahead, Bev. You got your hand up.
if I might, did I interrupt
Bob,
somebody?
can we let Bev go first? She's had her hand
Sure.
up for a while.
You can go. You can go.
Oh,
Go ahead.
thanks, Bev. I just wanted to say something to answer Amy's concern with the wee bit of positiveness here. And I know, okay, but it looks like BES is going to go through. It looks like that's going to be on the tax rolls in a few years. That's a $20 million project. That will be income coming in. There'll be expenses along with it, of course, but it is change and growth in Templeton. We have, now I don't know if I should do this, but there's 2 HCAs coming before the board for Patriots Road. There's already one down there. So once those get rolling, there's potential income there. I know there's not a lot. We have Damon Schmidt, with the plans for Valley Florist. I think he's either at licensing or close. So there is some movement, but Will pointed it out. They attempted to start an EDIC a few years ago, never got a complete committee. Never, I think Steve is actually on it. I don't even think they've had a meeting because I don't think they've had the members. And that's on us. But just wanted to throw in something a little positive rather than just saying, woe is me all the time. Thank you.
Well, even though you have
Go-
the,
Go ahead, Bev.
okay, go ahead.
No.
I'm sorry.
What Amy says is absolutely true until our ship comes in, and hopefully we're not at the airport. We need to keep our belts tight. Help us do it. And Baldwinville Products, I keep talking about them. They left us high and dry. We collected a lot of money from them in real estate taxes, never mind all of the vehicles they had, the excise tax they had. And for years, we went along like they were still here. And I said at the last meeting, in case no one heard me, that Luann ran a tab for me to see what they owe us. There's a guy that's sitting in jail. He owes us tax money and he owes us penalties. We will never get any of this, okay? $1,156,675.33. That's a lot of money. Nothing replaced that. So I have no idea how many people in this town have a job. I know the younger ones can work remote on computers, but the little old ladies that work in a shop, in a store somewhere, a lot of places have been closed. Some of them aren't ever going to open again. I really don't know how we stand. I think excise taxes were coming in real slow. Some of it was due to the mail, and it's picked up a little, but that whole thing's going to shake down, so we'll know. I wish our job is to watch out for the taxpayer. That's what our job is. And I'm not working against the people in town. The people in town hall I care about a lot. We've worked together for years. Even when I wasn't doing things, we had a relationship. And I don't want to hurt them because I know they've put in their time, and a couple of them have worked really, really, really hard. But we also have to watch out for our town, because nobody is going to be successful if we go off the deep end and we can't find a parachute. That's just the way I feel. You know, when we, in 2002 and 2003, you know how we got through that? Oh, we got money. But we got money from, let's see, a donation of 150,000 was provided for the Light and Water Department. This provided some temporary relief to the town for its administration and operation. You know, we got money from, we reduced the budget for one thing. We didn't fix anything. The roads weren't fixed. We really haven't done any work since the 70s. So, you know, you may come out okay, but in the long run, you lose more than you gain. We just have to be really careful.
Yeah, Bob's point about the new businesses coming in. I mean, they're coming in, but they're not going to be taking the place of businesses that we lost. To that extent, it's just unfortunate, and we don't know how long those are going to last per se. The other point is Bev was making about how many people are working in this community or without jobs. I just saw on TV about Wellesley and that area where the chamber guy came on, and he was talking about how many people in Wellesley, which is a much more affluent community than us, are unemployed. They have an issue. I mean, that's not something that we see per se as to how much folks are unemployed and haven't got the ability to take an even maybe paying some of their own bills, let alone giving money to the towns through real estate and excise.
Steve wants to say something.
Go ahead, Steve.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, a couple of comments on YouTube. At 7:03 from Mike Curry, Amy, please look at the 3-year plan emailed about getting out of one-time funds. Much of what you are saying, thanks. And also from Mike Curry at 7:05, TA has it and has briefed it. And that's all for now.
Okay.
It would be nice to take it, end up having the advisory committee see that. Maybe that's something that the chairman can end up asking from the selectmen.
Certainly, I can make a note of that. Well,
Yep.
And they'll be presenting that at the Wednesday meeting. Well, it's on their agenda.
Oh, okay. That's good. That's good to know.
okay. Anyone have anything else new on this? I'm going to get back to Amy just real quick to see if she had any committee updates. I know she was just kind of nothing new.
I thought you were asking about the other thing. I don't have anything on that. Our committee meeting is this coming week because it's
Okay.
the third Tuesday. I don't know. I just see the alerts in my calendar, but I think it's the third Tuesday of the month, so it hasn't happened
Okay.
yet.
Very good. The next on the our agenda is a 3-year plan for balanced budget.
3-year what?
The 3-year plan for the balanced budget. Bob, you would bring this on?
Yeah, I just asked to bring this up because I was going to ask if we could present a request to the select board if they hadn't put it on their budget.
Okay, so we could discuss this maybe after we see what they present on their I can make
That
it.
would be the time I think we could discuss it. Be kind of hard to discuss now.
Okay, so I can,
Thank you.
if no one has a problem, I can bump that to the next agenda. If that's okay with you, Bob?
I'm fine with that, Tom.
Okay, welcome, Deb.
Hi, sorry to be late, everybody.
Hello, Deb.
No.
Hi.
Just in time, adjourn. No.
Woohoo!
All right, next up on the agenda is to discuss the advisory committee email. Bob, I know you had asked me to talk about this.
Yes, I did for a couple of reasons. Now, when I'm going to go back to about a year ago or so, I think a little over a year ago, maybe two now, actually. Yeah. Tony, when he took over the advisory committee, he turned the advisory committee email basically into, I don't know what you want to call it. It dispensed the emails to every member.
It auto forwarded.
What was that?
It auto forwarded.
There you go. There you go. It auto forwarded. So at that point, and that's how we promoted it to the Board of Selectmen. That's how we promoted it at our meetings. And we were effectively removed from many lists in individuals and not put on them. So as you can see on the invite that you sent me for this meeting tonight, the advisory committee and your personal email gets it. You know, that used to be the advisory committee email and everybody would get it at the same time. So it didn't have to be forwarded, so it couldn't be delayed or forgotten or missed. You know, simple things, the weekly reports, getting them from, in the process we're getting them now is useless because they're already on the webpage. Holly puts them out usually around 3 o'clock on Wednesday.
Thursday.
They don't get what? On Thursday.
She puts them out on Thursday afternoon.
Right, on Thursday afternoon around 3 o'clock. They usually don't get on to the webpage until 4:30 later, sometimes the next day. So it always, to me, it always leaves a question mark. Whether you got something or you didn't get something.
If I can take a quick second, Bob, while you're there, just to explain why I am not in favor of the auto forwarding and why I no longer do it. The reasoning I did it is actually out of the open meeting law booklet itself. And it talks about how if any member was to send out something to the advisory board and it actually auto forwards to everybody and it's got any type of an opinion on it, on something that is going to be discussed in any meeting, then it's an open meeting law violation according to their booklet. My concern being if someone, say, Amy sends to the advisory committee that she wants to put on the agenda to talk about the school board because she doesn't feel they should be spending that type of money and it forwards out to all of us, it's technically, according to what they've printed in their book, a violation.
Correct.
Concern is just to make sure that, and I don't not forward any of that stuff to you guys. I know you say it brings up a question, but it's my concern is that we're setting ourselves up to potentially, if somebody gives an opinion, we either aren't going to discuss that because that would be I just think it's such a fine line setting ourselves up that I don't want to see it. I'd rather make sure everybody gets everything. But if it's a opinion thing, then we can't continue that email chain, unfortunately.
I absolutely understand what you're saying. I just think that is very questionable because it's only a violation if we use that email address to as a, you know, if we send email to that email address. If we don't, there's no violation. So if all incoming committees send to that and it goes to all of us, we all get the information from every committee outside ourselves, regardless of the information. We just, if I want to talk to you, I send an email to Tom Smith. If I want to talk to Amy, I send an email to Amy. I don't send it to advisory because that's the advisory committee email.
Well, yeah, but even like the ones where you and I went back and forth with about the email address and putting this out there.
I didn't have yours.
Advisory to you to advisory.
Mhm.
It's just addressed. It was just, my name, but it was still to advisory committee. If it had been auto forwarding, we wouldn't
Be using it.
be discussing it tonight.
We wouldn't be using it.
I just, like I said, my concern is, if I just hate to see us be setting ourselves up for something that when in turn, and it's just as, today's report came out at 3:30, 4 o'clock, whenever I sent it out, I think about 15 minutes later. It's the time gap isn't always, I'm trying to make sure that's, different, but.
And Tom, this really isn't about you. It's about the process. So I know you're doing and you're going to in all this, but the next person might be different. I'm trying to set a process that we can use that's consistent and gets all the information to all the members all the time. That's all I was looking for. And I thought it worked fine. And I didn't see the break in it while Tony ran it.
I'm not saying it didn't. Like I said, my concern was just setting ourselves up for the potential. I'm just trying to avoid that.
Okay. I would respectfully ask for a vote on that from the committee or more discussion.
I'll second that.
Go ahead, Bevan. I'll end up weighing in on this. I brought this up a number of times in previous meetings. And I pointed out and I asked you if we could end up going back. And the reason I pointed it out is that on a couple of occasions, I ended up talking with the administrator. And he in the conversation that I had with him, he brought up the fact that he had sent the advisory a couple of, and this is not one time, this is at least 2 or 3 times in discussion with him where he had sent something to us and asked me if I had seen it. I didn't see it till 2 days later. And that's not a dispersion on you. I know you're busy, but if we end up having an automatic process such as that, I would have seen it. I could have ended up calling with the TA and had a discussion. I was blindsided 3 times when he asked me about what he had sent out. I don't, as an advisory member, I don't feel comfortable with the fact that we have not had a problem all the time that Tony was having it automatic. Like Bob said, if I want to end up talking to somebody, I either call them or I send them an email directly as to what I want to end up bringing up. So it's not going to the advisory committee email. It's more of, hey, here's something that we should discuss. Take a look at when you ask for agenda items. Okay, we send those directly to you. That's not going through the advisory committee email.
Actually, most of them are.
But very rarely do we end up having that situation. And I like to see us go back to the way we ended up having it with Tony. We got those emails much quicker. We could end up seeing what's coming down the pike as far as what the administrator or even what a selectman have sent out to us. It's a much quicker, and that way there we don't end up getting blindsided if we're talking with somebody and they're asking us about email that they sent to the committee and we have no knowledge of it. So that's my input. And was that a motion, Bob? Because if it was, I'll end up seconding it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was just wondering if anybody else wanted to speak, but I'm willing to make a motion that we revert back to having the advisory committee email being an auto forward to all members as previously set up.
I'll add with the caveat of people shouldn't be sending certain stuff as members to the advisory, if they want to end up talking with somebody or passing along some information. And I'll second that, Bob.
Okay, further discussion on that? I do have one thing. If a member, Bob, I would hope that if a member does not want to have the auto forwarded to them, they could have their email not on that list, just in the case that they don't want to be involved. If there is some type of sent out incorrectly and it does become a violation, that certainly wouldn't be an issue, correct?
I can't see where anybody looking to limit their information on their own personal email would be my, any problem with me.
Okay.
But it also would not guarantee them information.
Yep. No, I just want to make sure that if someone did not want to have that, then
Sure.
fine with that.
I would be personally, yeah.
So I'm just going to add, to avoid that, like we used to keep, and I remember, Will, we used to keep a sheet with all of our contact information on it. So each member, I sent it out.
That's correct, Deb. For years, I ended up doing it when I was chair. I passed that along to the last couple of chairmen. I didn't think it was my place to keep updating that, but it would probably be for the chairman, or if he wants to take and designate somebody to take and end up filling that information. It was a list of members list with their names, their telephone numbers, for their cell phones, and if they were on any committees, such as capital or whatever. So we could end up even giving that. Years ago, we even gave that members list to the select board. So if they wanted to contact any of us and even talk up to somebody that was on a committee, they had the necessary information, the email as well as the telephone number. And that worked good for a number of years. Why it was dropped, I don't know. And it wasn't continued.
Well, I was just going to say, if we want to put that back together, I have no problem collecting that information, and people can give me, if they're comfortable giving me a cell phone number or a telephone number to reach them, or an email that they check regularly. I can put together that sheet and at least email it out to our committee so everybody knows how to get in touch with each other.
Yeah, Deb, just to take it into putting on, I think the only person that on the members list that I don't have, and this is past ones, that I don't have an email or a telephone number. No, I'm not picking on you, Tom, is Tom. If you go back, I have Bob's and I have Bev's, I have yours and I have Amy's, and I've got Tony's. I mean, I even have Amy's husband's still, even though he's not on.
Yeah, well, I know you have my email.
If I ever want to talk to him,
times.
yeah, if I ever want to talk to Amy's husband, I still have his telephone number and his email.
Yeah, and I think, go ahead, Tom.
I was going to say, I know Will's emailed me and called me, so he's got it somewhere.
There you go.
I had to look it up.
Go ahead, Deb.
Oh, I'm done. I saw Beverly had her hand raised though. So
Go ahead,
I'll
Bev.
cede the floor.
I don't have any problem with doing what Bob's saying. I think it's a lot easier. And I've been on the advisory board a long time, and I don't think we've ever had a problem. Whatever.
Well, the truth is we should all be familiar with open meeting law.
Yep.
So we really should all know better than to submit to a group email any open meeting violational conversations.
We all
You know.
sign paperwork as such,
That's
don't we?
right.
There you go.
Listen, I have a certificate, Bob.
You are bomb.
The only reason, Amy, I even pointed that out was because if I go back over the last probably 3 months, I could probably pull out probably 4 or 5 different times where that would have happened. And it would have gone out with opinions to everybody. That's the only reason I bring up the part about the open meeting law, just trying to avoid those type of things going out. But
Well, no, like Amy said, we all know about the open meeting. We shouldn't be putting that into the advisory email.
And Tom, please don't, I'm not trying to diminish the open meeting law issue. I do know it, but I do think we have to be responsible for that. And myself personally, I remember advocating, and I still would advocate, that the Board of Selectmen should have a very similar email address that shoots out information to all of them. And I think that would help us with our communication problem throughout town. Just because trying to get information from one committee to another seemingly is one of our problems. So with that said, I'm good.
Anyone have anything new? Okay, Bev,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Will,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
and I'm a no. The yes have it. I'll take a look at the rules and see about forwarding it on.
Deb, is that something that you were going to make a motion on, that we created a member list again?
We need a motion?
I think I got the list, Will, that you sent to me. I can probably just forward that over to her if she just wants to update it.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure I still got that where you had sent it over to me.
Yeah, because when I did make it, I sent it out to everybody so everybody had it.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll send an email asking, for if you're comfortable and you want to share a phone number, great. I think more importantly, we have everybody's personal email, so, I'll just have everybody confirm the sheet. And then, we'll send it out to the whole group. And beyond, I'm just going to send it to just our committee. Beyond that, that's up to the committee as a whole. Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda is discuss the weekly reports of 3-4 and 3-11. Those are the ones that we had come out before this meeting. They don't have anything they want to go over on those two?
Well, I actually do. I looked at the that weekly report for the 11th, 3-11, and the one thing that crossed my mind, I'm trying to find it here, so sorry, was under building and grounds. And this is basically, since we're talking about this weekend, type of thing, but it says under building and grounds, prepared signs for recreation department. Now, I have no idea, what that is, what it's not. But now, is the recreation department a separate department? Because building and grounds is supposed to be, public works is supposed to be, and is there, any kind of, I don't know, accounting for time usage? Because this type of thing seems to happen on a regular within, and the town set up as a town set up, and things have been run like they've been run, and but our buildings and grounds are sometimes used as movers and haulers, which doesn't seem appropriate, but are we, let's say, blending our services and putting them all under or being billed in the wrong place? Is my general question there.
You're right, Bob. That's a very interesting question, because the Recreation Committee has their own budget.
Yeah.
And if they need something done, they should be budgeting for it. Just like we have to budget for ourselves if we want to end up doing stuff. I mean, we've gone out and passed, even though we've not not gone forward on some of the stuff. We've budgeted for different things within our budget to take and end up actually proceeding with. So that for them to end up asking buildings and grounds when they already have a budget seems not right.
How much of that, Bob, though, is one department helping another department and just trying as a town?
I don't know that, Tom, and I don't know if, is that the right thing to do?
I mean, I guess in my opinion, on a townwide thing, I mean, if they're a town employee, they're being paid. If they can help out, I mean, without something being something that they're not knowledgeable of, or at least helping move furniture at town hall because maybe they want to help move filing cabinets or something. I guess I don't see anything wrong with the helping each other out. I think that's something that a lot of society loses, helping the next person. And I think that's something that I personally like seeing the town departments help each other.
Well, I would too if they were volunteers, Tom. But that goes to the problem. It's a budget. And, when the recreation department has a budget of, let's say, $1,500, but that yet they're, and I don't know what, I'm just going to pull a number out of my hat here and say, let's say they're having them prepare signs worth $1,500 over here. Well, that $1,500 would now be coming out of building and grounds. So the town would have a false picture of their budget, because it was actually $3,000 that should have been been in recreation's budget and $1,500 less in building and grounds, if you're following me. You know what I mean? We're putting expenses where they're not designed to be coming from. So that's what I'm saying. And I understand the helping out. Helping out is great for volunteers, but when one person's getting paid to do work in one department and it's coming out of that budget, and another person's getting paid to do work in this department and it's coming out of this budget, if they work in the other's department, they're fudging the budget.
It's a cost that has, it's a cost that has to be allocated to the right budget and not to the wrong budget. And I have to agree with you.
Proper account.
Yeah, right. And getting into the right count, because now you're penalizing the buildings and grounds for spending money for another committee which has a budget. I mean, now if there was an easy way to have them put it in their budget and transfer it per se, then they should put it in, the rec committee should put it in their budget and end up saying, okay, we have this money, we want you to spend it, because you end up doing all kinds of signs because you have the either the resources or where to get it done, or vice versa. They could end up providing the information to the rec committee as to where to get it done and let them go ahead and proceed and spend the money. I mean, that's just accounting wise, we just seem to not do the right thing as far as having monies in budgets and properly handling them.
So if one of the department members was to do 10 minutes of work for another department, we should bill that department for 10 minutes? It just seems like it'd be a nightmare.
Well,
Why
there's
are
been
we
some,
bringing it to the ridiculous?
there's been some,
Because it seems a little ridiculous.
there's been some questions about departments using the accounting service and the payroll of the town buildings, and not necessarily are they contributing any money from their budget. And I'm not going to get into specifics, but this has been an ongoing issue with enterprises having work done, and this is not small amount of money, Tom. But I mean, if we're going to end up looking at the big stuff, we should be looking at the smaller stuff too. And you're right. 10 minutes, that may not be something that we want to look at. But when it comes down to, say, $1,500, that's a bigger issue.
And I'd just like to say that if it's worth writing about in the weekly report, it's probably more than 10 minutes.
Yeah, you have a point there.
Go ahead, Bev.
I think most town departments have got enough to do without doing those kinds of things. You know, and if they get it approved by the selectmen ahead of time, it depends on what it is, but it's true. There's so little structure in our town that it is sometimes very scary. It really is. You know, you wonder, we have roads you can't drive down, but we have more than one time had the highway guys doing all kinds of manual labor. You know, that's not their job. I think that there's a lot to be desired as to how we do things in this town. And it's not like, oh, I'll help you out. Somebody's riding by and they're going to help you pick something up and put it in a truck. They're literally doing a job. Then I think it's easy for somebody that it's not their dime, okay, to say, that's all right, go ahead and do it. It is our dime. It really is. And I think that there are a lot of areas in our town government and in our budget system that needs cleaning up. It's just my opinion.
Can we move on to the next thing? If we're done with this, Bob?
Yeah, does anyone have anything else on the
Nope.
weekly reports?
I'm fine.
Yes, I do.
Okay,
And I'm not sure what weekly report it was in, but it was written up by the treasurer collector, and that really gave us a glimpse into. I think it was on the 11th. I won't swear to that. I know I read it in either the 4th or the 11th of over 2,000 of the excise taxes not being paid. I mean,
It was
that's
the 11th.
It was 11th. Thank you, Bob. But that's a very scary thing to take and end up having that. And she did explain some of it, but I don't think that's all of it. Now I have a concern that if that's not the case with all those mails being forwarded back to them, and there was some people, there was some level of people not paying, that's an indication of an issue right within the community about people having the ability to take and end up paying for the excise tax. In fact, this is the funny thing about it. I happen to be looking at a Facebook, and somebody actually asked the question about what excise taxes were used for. And I was surprised to take and end up seeing, and I won't mention who, but on our BOS, that it was also a question about, yeah, I don't know what they're used for. I mean, I was totally amazed that the individuals didn't know what their excise tax paid for. Some people on Facebook were thinking that it pays for roads, which it doesn't. All that information comes from the RMV as to what we should be as far as the charges should be. And I mean, those are the type of things that we have to be very careful about, and people need to be educated as to what happens with that money that they end up paying. And it's like I said, some people haven't got the ability to take and pay during this pandemic. We should be concerned about that, because that's really the tip of the iceberg, maybe.
Just to bump off your tip of the iceberg there, Will, I was just thinking about it earlier during the discussion that maybe an indicator there too would be to see how, use the light department as some sort of a gauge by the town, because the light department gets a monthly payment, and it's, let's say, not one that's, other than your discount within the 10 days, is penalized beyond that too much, and there's been holes on shutoffs and such. So that might be an indicator to the town where the town sits that's fairly accurate.
I was
Go ahead, Deb.
I was just gonna ask too, I'd be curious, I don't know what number of excise taxes normally goes unpaid on a given year, because I am that person that forgets every year because I stick it to the side, and so then I get the demand notice for the extra $10 and I'm always kicking myself. But I'd just be curious what amount of excise taxes normally are we missing at this time every year?
I asked the same question and I was just told that this is high.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
This is extremely high. And thank you for the extra $10.
We could
He
use
needed it.
Years running. I pay it right online now, right when I get it, so I don't forget. So once they implemented that online ability, that's really helped me out.
Anything else from the weekly reports? All right, next we got committee members' comments. Bev, you got anything you'd like to add?
You're on mute, Bev.
I know. I'm an old lady. Come on. I had to chase the mouse around. I think that the discussion we had tonight is a good one. And I know that people probably at home probably feeling that we're in their corner, that we're going to work for them. We're going to work with the town. And hopefully we can cushion whatever is ahead of us so that nobody gets hurt too bad. That's the only thing I care about. Okay. Thank you, Debbie and Amy, for showing up Saturday. I appreciate that very much. You know, you guys are good. I appreciate you. I want you to know that.
All right, Amy.
No, I don't have anything else. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bob?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that a couple things, and one was I'd really like to see the advisory committee think about opening the doors to discussions with Narragansett. Chris, Dr. Casavant in the meeting the other day seemed about as open to discussion as I've heard him yet. He seemed to be willing to sit down and talk budgets as soon as the towns were ready after this budget was closed. And I'd like to suggest that we open the door and swing it wide and say, come on down. Because without a real meeting of the minds with the school and some real work on the joint budgets, all I see is pain in our future. And along with that, I want to thank Chris for the openness to move forward, and hopefully we can go somewhere with that. I'd like to invite the Board of Selectmen to invite us. Other than that, I'm just going to leave it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Go ahead, Will.
Yeah, a couple things. Just so everybody is aware, I don't know if everybody read the email, but on the 24th at 5:30, there's going to be, and we've been invited along with the selectmen to end up having having a meeting to take and talk a little more in depth about Gilman Way. That's the first one. The second thing is that we now come next Wednesday. By the way, the 24th is on the Wednesday, so it's an hour before the selectmen's meeting that they're talking about Gilman. Just to take and point that out. Come the 24th, it's anticipated that the selectmen will end up doing something with the budget. And once they approve it in whatever form they decide, it will be up to us to take and end up reviewing that. Well, what is that going to mean? Well, if we end up looking at the overall budget document and our line on the accounts and it says to be D, we could end up putting a number in there and going through and putting a number in there. My only concern is this. If we put a number in and it's lower or higher, how does anybody know where it has to go? They don't know. So I'll give it as an example. Selectmen's budget. We end up saying, okay, instead of 295,000, we want to take and end up suggesting that it's 285,000. Where did we make that $10,000 cut, people? Anybody know? I mean, it says selectmen's budget. That's a problem in my eyes. Okay. I don't know if anybody else thinks that way, but I think it is. What we did last year is we added a line to every account. And I know it's more time consuming, but it can also be quicker, is you add another line to the overall budget where it says advisory, and it rolls into whatever account. As an example, selectmen's. If we were to take and end up doing something with the salary, and we said, okay, and I'll just pick one, is to end up and I'm not to take and start a controversy, but just to take and end up having a point of interest here. We end up saying, okay, we want to take and end up cutting $15,000 from the raise document. And that's on one of the accounts. We can do that on that account. All the other accounts, if we agree with the thing, we put the same number in and it all rolls in. So when the administrator looks at that and says, okay, I see that they've reduced it by $10,000 or $15,000, he can go back and look at all the accounts and see where the change was and what we're suggesting. Even the townspeople, if they had a question as to where, we could end up saying it's in this particular account. Doing it the way that we have it now, it leaves a lot to interpretation. I'm just throwing that out to the members to take and end up feeling what you all are thinking about this. And those are my thoughts going forward. But if everybody wants to take and end up going into that thing where it says TBD and we put a figure in, that's fine with me. But just remember, it's now up to interpretation as to where it's being cut, and it may not be cut in the place that we are looking out for the townspeople and saying that cut. And by the way, it can end up also increasing. I gave you an example. Here's another example. We take a look at our budget, and let's pick on our budget, and we say, okay, we've got a thing for personal support to take and pay for different stuff, and it's like $2,000. Let's cut that in half. Okay, let's cut that in half. But let's take that $1,000 and put it into what? Emergency reserve. It keeps the budget the same, but people can actually see that as a change. Just some of my thoughts. I'm throwing that out to folks that they can think about, because we're going to end up having to do the budget review once the selectmen have already gone through and done theirs.
Okay, Deb?
I'm good. Thank you for asking. I
Okay.
don't have any comments.
And I really don't have any comments that I'm going to go into at this point. Thank you guys for coming. At this point, we don't have anything else. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn if anyone's so interested.
So
moved.
Okay, made and seconded.
Second.
Bev?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Will?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Have a good night.